Sakuko's name combines the kanji for blossom and child. She is a flower child, specifically one in bloom, implying youth, freshness, and fragility. Of the elements, it associates her with wood. The wood element of Japanese tradition is not specifically meant to refer to physical wood, but to the general energy of growing things and plant life. Her last name, Igarashi, combines the kanji for the number 50 and arashi, which can either mean mountain mist or mountainous air, or a storm. Both names give her a heavy association with the symbol at the center of Silent Hill F's story, the sacred tree which was struck by lightning. Sakuko's family have been the caretakers of Senensugi Shrine for countless generations. The Igarashi have been in charge of nameless rituals in the town, mentioned in a text found in the Dark Shrine Library in the Corridors section. Sakuko herself has visions of supernatural beings. She hears and sees things, dreams of gods, and has a heavy connection to the powers of the other side. Unlike her parents, she feels drawn to the work of her forebears, acting as a miko at the shrine, though she wishes to be head priest one day. Unfortunately, that's a role that is traditionally restricted to male members of the family. While in the modern day the shrine is dedicated to Inari, the name actually means thousand-year cedar. More than being associated with holiness, her family is associated with the tree, and she seems to be in general opposition to the other gods of the town. She wants to renew the old Senensugi shrine. In her dreams, one god tells her to do so while the other commands her not to. When she insists, that second god threatens her life. She is the first to die at the hands of the flowers, which manifest from the power of the foxes. It seems clear she was killed by the fox god for her support of the older traditions of the town. The other god was likely Tsukumogami, the god of objects, which seems to have absorbed what remains of the tree's influence after the lightning destroyed it. During her boss fight, Sakuko appears in the role of a miko, wearing the red hibakama slacks and white kasore top. In addition, she is also wearing a chihaya, an overrobe worn during certain rituals and kagura performances, tied together in the front with a red munahimo cord. The flower pattern is likely a chrysanthemum. The flower is beloved in Japan and is associated with holiness through its historical association with the imperial family, which was once seen as divine. In Silent Hill F, chrysanthemums appear throughout Ibisugaoka, not as part of the invading red flowers, but as blue decorative flowers. This may be because of the historical association with the divine, marking them as flowers which oppose the unholy, invasive red flowers. The outfit Sakuko wears implies this is a ritual performance, and the movements call to mind kagura dance steps. In the real world, Sakuko may have performed a ritual dance as a blessing for Hinako's wedding, something she might have regretted given some of her diary entries. She felt there was a dangerous shadow over her friend and that the wedding was not the happy occasion it should have been. Here she is perhaps attempting to undo her original blessing, fighting against the dark Hinako, both to vent her own frustration and to stop her friend from making a mistake. Like most of the monsters of this game, Sakuko's face is damaged. However, unlike most of them, she still has facial features. Her mouth is melted, her nose is missing, and her eyes are shut. The closed eyes imply blindness, which are historically associated with Japanese miko. Scholars sometimes even categorize the profession between those who are blind and those who are not. Blindness was often interpreted as a sign of holiness in religious figures and artists in Japanese history. A halo of light hangs behind her head, symbolically similar to the way light is portrayed in art behind figures like Amaterasu. It is a holy light, a divine light, marking her as a servant of the gods. Her chest has a portion missing, cut out in a shape that resembles a keyhole. This shape has an ancient history in Japan, going back to the kofun, or keyhole-shaped burial sites, which can date as far back as the 3rd century. Physically, the hole seems to mimic the location of her spine, perhaps reflecting the general weakness and fragility of her character. Her weapon is the sickle, attached to the mace in her other hand. The sickle is associated with the harvest. Sakuko's sickle brings to mind the gods of the field and rituals involving fertility. Her other hand is a terrible weapon, but it is used like a traditional bell, giving off the ringing tones of the suzu, the miku's bell used in Shinto rituals. Participants at shrines ring bells to garner the attention of the kami. The bell rung during rituals summons the divine while repelling evil. In this case, Sakuko's bell harms us. When it rings and summons light, Hinako is hurt and pushed back without being physically touched. Knowing that the game is divided between two versions of Hinako representing her divided self, and knowing this is the Dark Shrine version associated with the fox and yin energy, perhaps this explains why the light and the divine power of the kami actually hurts our protagonist. This battle is fought at the end of the corridors section, a part of the Dark Shrine which is entirely over water. The design of the shrine in this area and its presence over a lake mirrors the real-world Itsukushima Shrine, built on the edge of the water on the island of Miyajima. It's a shrine dedicated to the daughters of the god Susanoo, who are all goddesses of the sea and storms. The characters of Silent Hill F seem to have not one, but two associations with the elements of Japanese mystic traditions. We've seen how Sakuko is associated with wood in the realm of life. In the Dark Shrine, she seems associated with water. She fights over water in an arena designed after the goddesses of the storm, a word that appears in her name. In Ibisugaoka, the item representing water, the rusted flask, is found at Senninsugi Shrine, where a figure resembling Sakuko can be found dancing. Wood and water combine well. They create life. They create plants. Both are associated with living energy, the living energy of plant life and growing things that feeds other life, and the primal source, the origin of all life, what keeps them living. Sakuko is a creature of life, fertility, and holiness, which makes her fate as a small, terrified girl dying in the dark, killed in a war between gods, all the more tragic. Each of the 4 children in Silent Hill F are associated with a round symbol, which appears throughout the Dark Shrine. The symbol pulls from Japanese tradition, specifically the kamon, or clan heraldry, used by the noble families and samurais for generation. These kamon seem to be unique to Silent Hill F, but they use similar imagery. Sakuko's symbol is the rabbit. Hinako mentions her love for the creatures. The girl's diary involves a conversation she has with the school rabbit she cares for, and the rabbit hutch appears in her version of the Dark Shrine. Rabbits are associated with immortality and fertility, with endless life and procreation. They are auspicious, holy, associated with the moon, and through the moon, with waves and water. In the worship hall, the full version of Sakuko's symbol has a rabbit in the center and 3 circles surrounding it, likely resembling the moon. In Japanese tradition, it's said a rabbit appears on the surface of the moon, a story explained in Buddhist myth. The story involves a hungry old man. To keep the man from starving, the rabbit chooses to sacrifice itself, throwing itself into a fire. In honor of that sacrifice, the man places the rabbit's image on the moon. The most famous rabbit of Japanese myth is the white hare of Inaba, a divine figure who features in the myths of the god Okukinushi, son of the god Susanoo. The rabbit plays a trick on another animal, who grows angry and skins the creature. Suffering terribly, the rabbit seeks help from humans who hurt it further. Finally, the rabbit meets Okukinushi, who helps the rabbit recover, and the human receives a divine blessing in return. The kanji used to refer to this white rabbit are the same as those used to refer to the white rabbit key in Silent Hill F. Both of these prominent examples of rabbits in myth involve suffering and even death for the rabbit. The white hare is skinned, essentially tortured. The other rabbit burns alive. In the game, one version of Sakuko's diary implies she too plans to torture a rabbit, to cut off all 4 limbs after naming the creature Hinako, as a way to vent her anger. At the same time, the horrible fate of the rabbit reflects Sakuko's fate, as the first to die, as one who is tortured to death by her own friend. Rabbits are sensitive creatures. They can be frightened to death, a fate Sakuko shares in Silent Hill F. She is terrified of the dark, because of her fear of being alone, of being ostracized, because of how much isolation she suffered during her youth. She is autistic and does not easily socialize with others. Hinako is her first friend. Comparing Sakuko and Rinko's fates, we see a few differences. We know from the outset what is happening to Rinko. She's in the first room of her section of the game. Sakuko, however, is hidden away and not revealed until the end. Her prison is designed as a holy space, with an altar, Shinto implements, and decorations from holy traditions. The flags hanging on either side of the prison have the Sayagata pattern on them, using a Buddhist symbol called the manji. It represents eternity because the pattern never seems to end. It is used primarily for celebrations, even weddings, to represent the wish for prosperity, happiness, and future generations for the married couple. Hanging over Sakuko's final moments gives the flag a terrible irony. This framing of Sakuko's death does make it feel like a ritual sacrifice, in the same way the rabbit's death by fire does. On the other hand, Rinko's death feels less holy and less important. It's a side effect of obtaining the key, rather than an exchange. It's as if her death is an afterthought, even though we know it will happen the entire time, because we can see her hanging in front of the device. It's an insult. Rinko, who is so deeply obsessed with Hinako, is about to die in a way that feels insignificant, as if Hinako doesn't care at all. The riddle that leads to Sakuko's death focuses on a set of figures, a rabbit and a fox, and the light and shadows from the hanging cages in the room. The riddle refers to two figures bowing to each other, as custom dictates. This might relate to some marriage traditions. In my many years of reading and watching Asian fiction, I've seen a lot of Chinese marriage traditions that involve the two getting married and bowing. I don't know that that's a Japanese thing, but the terms of the riddle are so specific it brought the idea to mind. And since Japan did import a lot of Chinese traditions, perhaps bowing during marriage was one at some point in time. I've not found any mention of it in modern traditions, however. The fox is a natural predator of the rabbit. In fact, most of the other symbolic animals of the game are predators. Hinako is represented by birds, which eat worms and insects, and small mammals. Rinko is the snake, which also preys on others. Only Sakuko, the first to die, is presented as a prey animal, who can do no harm to the other members of her. The puzzle gives Hinako two objects, lantern covers named for restraint and talon. The Japanese terms are kagezume, meaning the claw or talon of an animal, and sokubaku, meaning restraint, shackles, confinement, or binding. The image is of prey trapped, either by the claws of an animal, like a hawk, or by the trap of a human being. The shades remove the light from the room, leaving Sakuko trapped in darkness. Darkness, in Japanese thought, is associated with yin, or yo in Japanese terms. Yin encompasses all the otherworldly, supernatural powers that are in some way dangerous, malevolent, or related to death. Ghosts, yokai, bakemono are all yin creatures. Spirits which are holy, divine, or kami are yang, creatures of light and brightness. Amaterasu is the goddess of the sun, the greatest source of light and life there is, reflecting how deeply light is associated with the divine in traditional Japanese thought. In her boss fight, Sakuko uses light against Hinako. During the latter half of the fight, she uses the bell to summon incredible brightness, which the player must interrupt in order to hurt Sakuko. Light is her power, associated with her role as a Miko, a holy woman serving the gods, making her a servant of Yang, or In, the energies of divinity and light. Darkness destroys her, because it is her opposite. It is Yin, dark energy, the energy of the dead and the unholy.
Hello everyone, this is a very laid-back update on my life. You might have noticed I posted a really long video and then I vanished. Well, A lot's been going on around House Muse. Many of you probably know we moved very recently.
And they got me.
And I got a child. Mini Muse is here. I was building up to that, but Mini Muse is here. We moved. We adopted a child into the household. And I got a new job, which I've been trying to do for many months and had struggled with a bit because moving and job is very hard. But that's all been part of the reason why I really haven't been even online, where normally if I'm not posting, at least I'm checking Discord or doing social media, but I just haven't been because I've been too busy. I literally have the time this week because I have a sinus infection. If you can tell, my voice is lower. Doing very well, but a new job, there's always so much to learn and do and stress. You know, moving, we're still getting the house settled, and child is a child and setting things on fire in my room.
I'm no longer a child.
Okay, but you're still a mini Muse.
Legally
anyway.
an adult.
Mini Muse. Anyway. So things will hopefully calm down and get better as time goes forward. One hopes, it assumes, but for the moment, I just haven't had the time. I'm gonna try and do more short videos like this. I think long term, it's gonna be really good for the channel because, you know, for people that have been around, when I was very sick, YouTube was my income and was my life. And now that I'm no longer so ill that I can't work out of the home, it doesn't have to be, which means I can make whatever I want. I can post whatever videos I want. I can ignore the algorithm and make a 3-hour long just video about Pyramid Head's ass. Like, I can do what I want now, and I think that will be very fun. It's just getting to the point where things have settled and I have the free time to do it. So, thank you all for your patience. I will try and post little videos as much as I can, probably mostly Silent Hill F, but I am also working on some of my other stuff I'm really into, like Honkai Star Rail, Heaven Official's Blessing, some other book videos and things, maybe even Final Fantasy. Maybe I'll get back to that. Shin Megami Tensei is another one. I have received a game for free from them, and I will be streaming it probably tomorrow. So, if I can do that this weekend, that would be great. And hopefully we'll see you guys there. In the meanwhile, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks again for hanging around, and
Bye.
look forward to more of that. Bye.